I've posted to this website before and have something else I would like to share. It was 1986 and I was 18 years old when this occurred. My sister and I were on our way home from a Bruce Springsteen concert and I'd fallen asleep in the car. I had a very vivid dream that my boyfriend at the time was involved in a car accident. So vivid, as a matter of fact, that I dreamt that there were 4 people in the car. Him and his friend Sean and 2 girls that I did not know. I woke up and said out loud, "Bobby's been in an accident." I didn't get the impression that it was fatal, but that they were hurt. My sister said that it was just a dream and to not be upset, but I knew in my heart that it wasn't. When I got home, it was pretty late, probably about 1:30 a.m. I went into my bedroom to get changed, all the while resisting the urge to call Bobby and confirm what I already knew. I felt that if it was indeed just a dream, it was too late to call though. As I was wrestling with this, my phone rang and it was Bobby telling me that he and Sean had been in a car accident. That in and of itself was strange, but he had also been cheating on me, and there were 2 girls in the car with them. No one was hurt too badly, just as I had thought, but there were injuries. Just thought I'd share. Thanks for listening. Hi. My story is very personal, as it was not a haunted house I lived in as a child, but a visit from my deceased granddad. Just to outline why I believe it came to me was that I was raised by both him and my grandmother in England from 9 days old till 10 years old. For all intents and purposes, they were my parents. I was 14 in 1976, and my granddad had been slowly going downhill from his battle with sclerosis of the liver. He had been in a hospital for a couple of months, and we knew he wouldn't be spending that Xmas with us. He died at 3:58 a.m. on October 7th, 1976, with my grandmother by his bedside. She had all the monitors, IVs, tubes, pumps, and everything else that was keeping him alive removed, so that he may die with dignity in a side room, privately, without the impersonal ambience of intensive care. I was devastated about this loss and automatically went into a crying fit. This went on for about 2 weeks. I didn't eat, sleep much, stayed out of school, and in general became very ill and depressed. I vaguely recall the funeral, but was very overcome with emotion. I was a 14-year-old girl who had lost the most important man in my life, and it was killing me. One day, I recall getting up to go to the bathroom and hearing my mom telling my dad that they should take me to a psychiatrist due to my emotional state. I went back to bed and cried, telling my granddad that I wish he was here, eventually crying myself to sleep. Now, most nights before going to bed, my dad would check up on me, and in the half asleep, half awake state, I was aware of his visits. This particular night, I was turning over, but found that I was stuck on my bed, on my right side and totally unable to move. It was that dead weight type of feeling one gets with a tingling sensation, like when your leg falls asleep, but this had no sensation, just weight. I was scared, and this caused me to look across directly at my bedroom door. In the doorway, dimly lit by my nightlight, I saw the dark gray, not black figure of a heavy-set man outlined, but yet I could see through it, kind of. The left arm was outstretched towards me, but I dare not to move. After what now seems roughly 30 seconds to a minute, the shape disappeared, and I felt a sense of calm. I was hungry and fixed a cheese and pickle sandwich for myself. I went back to bed, but oddly enough, this incident didn't bother me really. I woke up the next day, showered, dressed, put a little makeup on to hide the bug eyes I had, and went downstairs. My mom was washing dishes, and my dad was reading the paper, and they both commented on my presence, and more so, state of apparent well-being. I knew, I guess, deep down, that it was my granddad who had visited me, but although I had no proof or words to back it up from granddad, I still wanted to test my feeling. I asked my dad if he had come in my room, and he said no. He said, "We didn't hear any noises, crying, etc., so we thought we would let you sleep in peace." I said, well, in that case, it was granddad who came to see me. With that remark, my mom threw the dish towel into the sink and said, "That's it, we're taking her to a doctor." Fortunately, my dad stepped in and suggested they hear me out. He believed me, or at least looking back, pacified me, as it obviously made me feel better so we went along with my visit from Granddad's story. My mom didn't believe me, but it didn't matter. I believed it. This isn't the end. Although I only had one visit, Granddad did appear to my grandmother. Ironically, when I called her up to tell her, she went very quiet and said that the very same night, he came to her too. She said she couldn't sleep and went to his study to sort papers, approximately 4 a.m., roughly the same hour he had died. I don't know what time my visit occurred. She said she felt someone was behind her. She was sitting at his desk, crying, when she felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. She said she brushed it off sharply as it scared her and she turned around. Nothing was there, but she said she felt something. She said she stopped crying and felt better. These were only the 2 incidents. No one else had a visit from Granddad, but we both know, Gran and I, that he came to visit us for comfort. We loved him more than anything, and he reciprocated us. My mom fell out with my grandparents, so the closeness was not between them. We both were hit the hardest, and he knew it. He came to let us know to go on, I feel, without the suffering that we were both enduring since his death. My grandmother lived until 1995, ironically, dying on her 83rd birthday. My grandmother promised me that if she could, she would visit me after she died. She didn't. I lit 2 white candles in our apartment. After I had packed it all up and sat there in silence, awaiting her visit, nothing happened, but I know she's okay. She was buried, as per her wish, with her granddad, and they finally were together again. That made me happy. They had been married and in love since 1932, school sweethearts, survived wars and hard times, and now eternally peaceful. Love is very powerful, and although it's hit and miss amongst those whom I tell this to in regards to belief, I know it happened and why. I've seen 2 of these things. They're called green orbs. I've known people who have seen them, and I've seen videos of them on TV that people have filmed and say that they are ghosts. First time, I was at my grandparents' house, which they seem to think is haunted. They joke about it because they are very religious and have trouble incorporating their beliefs with their senses. I was going to bed and was having to share a bed with my grandfather, who was already long since asleep. I crawled into bed and laid there for a while, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. Eventually, my eyes focused on the brightest object in the room, what appeared to be a reflection. I stared at it for maybe 15 minutes before a realization hit me. It was the brightest thing in the room. I considered maybe there's something outside brighter that it's shining off of, but my grandparents live in the sticks and have only one light outside, and it's quite some ways from the house. I had originally thought that it was a reflection from the brass hinges on a door. After deducing that the light was of its own source, I investigated. I got out of bed and walked up to it. The closer I got, the more apparent it became that this was not a mere reflection. It didn't move much. It hovered there, like a green rip in space and time, waiting. I experimented a little by turning on the light. It stayed there for a split second, after the light came on and then disappeared. I wasn't able to go back to sleep for a while. Second time I actually saw one, I was at my in-laws, lying in bed with my wife. It was near the ceiling above our heads. I woke my wife up and asked her if she saw it. She said she did, then went back to sleep. I watched it until it disappeared. After it was gone, I woke her back up and asked her if she could still see it. She said that she could not and went back to sleep. In between those times, I was at a known haunted house, unknown to us, but known to the occupants. We were staying the night, and while some of us were in the kitchen, 2 of my friends burst out of their rooms asking for flashlights or candles. They refused to go to sleep without them. They told us of an object we originally thought was a glow-in-the-dark mini frisbee, only it didn't move like a frisbee. I don't know what these things are, but I would very much like to study them. I was around 10 or 11 years old, growing up in Georgia when this started to take place. I lived with my parents, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, in a rather nice ranch-style brick home. My father had built this home when I was around 4 or 5 years old, and no one had ever passed away in it. My two brothers were 5 and 6 years older than I. One sister was 7 years older, and the other sister was around 1 or 2 years old when this happened. This all started very suddenly. Me and my two brothers slept in one room, in custom-made bunk beds that my father had built into the room. They were built in an upside-down L shape, with the main bunks on the right and a single bed coming off the main bunks from the head of the beds going towards the left. My oldest brother slept in the single bed, my other brother slept in the bottom bunk, and I slept on the top bunk. There were 2 windows over the single bed that my oldest brother slept in, and during the summer, these were kept open so that the attic fan will pull cool air in. Sorry for so much detail. It helps one to understand the rest of the story. One night we had gone to bed, and around 2 to 3 in the morning, my oldest brother was jarred awake by a tremendous pounding on the other side of the brick wall, where he slept, outside. He woke both of us up very quietly, and we listened as the pounding went across the wall, as if someone was walking the length of the house and back, pounding on the brick wall as they went. Now, this wasn't like someone was pounding with their fists or even kicking the house. We probably couldn't have even heard someone who was hitting the wall with their fists or feet. No. This sounded as someone had a 15 or 20 pound rock or something very heavy and solid, and was pounding the wall with it as they walked back and forth, with the impacts coming approximately 1 to 2 seconds apart. After some very frightening few minutes had passed, my older brother slipped into our father and mother's room and awakened our father, telling him about what was going on. My father, not pleased with being awake at this hour, didn't really believe him at first, but quietly made his way to our room and where the pounding was still going on. As this was summer, he looked out the open window through the screen, but couldn't see anyone. He then proceeded to collect his 20 gauge pump shotgun and slipped out the door on the opposite side of the house from the pounding to try to sneak up on whoever was doing it. As Daddy turned the corner of the house with the shotgun at the ready, the pounding suddenly stopped. Daddy had a flashlight, of course, and there was nothing to hide behind for at least 30 to 40 feet, where a cornfield started. He searched around for a bit, but couldn't find anything and came back in. As soon as he came in the house, the pounding started again. He went out immediately. Whenever he turned the corner, it stopped again. This was repeated several times, always with the same results. These happenings then continued for the next 2 to 3 months, almost every night. My father did not find anything or anyone that could account for it. There were also no marks or any kind of evidence to show where the pounding was being done on the bricks. One night my brother that slept underneath me was having a dream about playing basketball in a tournament at school when the pounding started. As the pounding was going up and down the wall, he was dreaming that he had missed a shot and that the coach had called him to the sideline. He dreamed that the coach was mad at him, and while asleep, he was moaning and making some kind of noise. My oldest brother, who slept under the windows, was trying to listen to the pounding to figure out where it was at during that time, and when my other brother started moaning, he reached over and grabbed him by the hair of the head and started pulling his hair to try to shut him up. At this time in the dream, my other brother was dreaming that the coach had grabbed his hair and was pulling it for him, missing the shot. We had always laughed about this happening. Anyway, my father never did catch anyone or anything pounding on the wall, and we still wonder to this day what it could have been. If anyone out there has had anything similar happening with pounding on the walls and moving back and forth, I would appreciate hearing from them. This is really weird because it happened about 2 days ago. My house doesn't have any history of weird stuff or hauntings. That's what made it strange. I lived in this house for about 6 years now. I'm 17, and I've yet not experienced anything like this. It's not really a haunting, but I thought it was really weird. It was about 1 a.m., and I was in my room on the internet. Both my parents were asleep, and nobody else was in the house, other than me. My parents were in their room, which is all the way across the house. The living room, the kitchen, the family room, and a small hallway separate my room from theirs. The only lights that were on were the lights in my room, because I was on the computer. As I was looking through the website, I heard my name whispered in my ear, so I stopped and looked around to see who had whispered, but saw nobody. So then, I tried to get chills and decided to go to bed. so I turned off the computer, and this was now about 1:20 a.m. As I was getting ready to go to bed, the phone started to ring, so I turned on the lights of the hallway to go to the living room. As I went to go see who it was in my caller ID, it read unavailable, so then I picked up the phone. When I picked up the phone, I said hello, but nobody answered. Again, I said hello, but again, nobody answered. I started to get pissed, but I tried to listen to see if I could hear anything. What I heard gave me chills. As I started to listen, I heard whispering that sounded like mumbling. I couldn't make out what was being said. It was like someone or something wanted to tell me something, but couldn't. It was really freaky, so I hung up the phone and I just sat on the couch, looking around for anything unusual. When I finally got up to go back to my room, I got the worst feeling that somebody or something was watching me. As I got to my room, I went straight to sleep. The next morning felt like if nothing had happened. This is the house of many tenants. The house is well over 200 years old and has many tenants over the years. I was 18 when we first moved in. It was a 4-bedroom house with high ceilings, an attic, and basement. My parents and nephew had the 2 downstairs bedrooms, which left me to the upstairs rooms. The first night we moved in, my friend and I were setting up the upstairs rooms as my bedroom. As we were standing in the hall by the bathroom, a little boy ran out of the other bedroom, ran down the hall towards us, peeked out around the corner, and ran into the bathroom. We went into the bathroom and saw that no one was there. Let me explain. This couldn't have been my nephew because he wasn't even in there at the time, and there was no other small boys in the house. Also, sometimes I've seen a man who dressed in what I can only call colonial walked up the stairs and walk into the attic. The weird thing is, I've never seen him walk up the old wooden stairs. Sometimes you could hear someone moving boxes and stuff around in the attic as if they were looking for something. All the people who had stayed in the house in the span of 6 years that had lived there would never sleep upstairs by themselves, and many reported the feeling as if someone was going to push them down the staircase as they stood at the top of the staircase. On more than one occasion, you could hear a woman crying, the toilet flushing, and doors slamming. My older sister stayed with us for a short while. During her stay, she had the shower doors cave in on her, pinning her to the wall, and a fan cord lightly wrapped around her neck during her sleep, in which she had found the following morning. Foul smells and shadows were a constant reminder of the ghost's presences. I was glad when we moved from the house because I found it very unnerving and somewhat frightening. I don't think I've ever had a sound night's sleep. In 1996, my boyfriend Daniel was living in an old New Zealand city called Dunedin. This city has a lot of old houses and a lot of history. He lived with his previous girlfriend in one of a pair of old terrace flats, which were cold and didn't get much sun during the day, but it was cheap, an important consideration when you're a poor student. It was the couple's flatmates that first noticed something strange. She professed to be something of an amateur mystic, reading auras and such like, and she claimed to sense more presence in the house. But the really scary stuff didn't start until Daniel went away for a couple of weeks and the 2 girls were in the house by themselves. They noticed the cats were frequently taking fright and chasing something, which the girls could not see. It got worse, and once the presence pushed one of the girls down the stairs from behind. Finally, as Daniel's girlfriend lay in bed one night, she felt something get into bed with her, a cold presence which touched her thigh. While Daniel was still away, the 2 girls had the place exorcised and the incident stopped, but not for long. Shortly after Daniel's return, the strange occurrences started again, the cats freaking out and other weirdnesses. The flatmate moved out, leaving Daniel and his girlfriend to deal with it alone. In an attempt to exorcise the ghost a second time, the couple burned incense around the house, especially near a certain doorway which seemed to be central to the occurrences. But as the 2 watched the circling smoke, they noticed it cut off, just disappeared into nowhere, a few inches away from the wall, as if the smoke were traveling through some kind of invisible doorway. In the end, they moved out, unable to handle the atmosphere of the house any longer. I don't know who moved in afterwards, nor what became of the ghost. I became the ghost. That's what happened. I became a ghost of friendly proportions, of proportionate proportions. I made that up. I don't even know if what I just said is even a word or even a thing. I know what proportions is, but I don't even know what I said a second ago. But I'm just going to leave this in because I'm not perfect, guys, and I'm not trying to be perfect, and I'm just trying to present the best possible version of myself by being a person. A ghost person, I guess. Phantom. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Share this across many social platforms. 10K is around the corner. But really, guys, I'm just thankful that I don't make sense so that I can make these outros for you and I guess just be a person who, trips up on his words. And like I said, I'm not going to edit this out or anything. It's meant to be cringy for you guys to enjoy me. I don't know what that even means, guys, seriously. But no, I really like the stories in this video. I mean, I know I say that every video, but I really do. And I just want to hear you guys' input. So comment below. Let me know how you feel about the stories. And, make sure you, give me some sentences that I can read really clearly. So maybe my outros might make more sense in the future. But don't count on it because they're never going to. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Anyway, good night, good morning, guys. I'll see you in the next video. I'll cut this outro short. I don't want to make it like, 5 or 6 minutes long. That's probably not a good idea. Maybe if it was, it'd be good. But anyway, guys, good night, good morning. I'll see you in the next video. I just said that. Bye-bye. Love you.